thing, but at the end of the day, you need to put your effort in, and that's why we get something from this game today.
But lastly, it can only be the start. This has got to be continued now.
Yeah, of course, you can't stop here. That's what I was saying. And I think we have to bring this frustration to the next games, because in a good way, to understand that this is our level, this has to be our level, and if we can do it this at Anfield today, we have to do it every week.
Well played. You are the player of the match.
Thank you very much.
We'll get back to Bruno in just a quick second, but remember, as always, if you like this video, please like, share and subscribe. And don't forget to press the notification button, because we want you to know the next time one of my videos drops. And if you've got something to say, if you disagree with anything that I say, or if you disagree with anything that anyone in the clips say, or if there's something that we've missed, please put it in the comments. I read all of the comments. And during this video, I want you to think about: who is your favourite number 10 player of all time? Now, when I say a number 10, the number 10 position is the creative attacking midfielder that sits between the midfield and the main striker, for instance. So classic examples of number 10s, I mean, it doesn't necessarily mean that they have the number 10 on their back, but the positional number 10. So classic number 10s are Diego Maradona, Zinedine Zidane, Roberto Baggio, and Bruno Fernandes as well. But who is your favourite number 10? And after this clip, please stick around, because we are going to have a little chat about Bruno Fernandes and number 10s. Anyway, here's Bruno.
This Man United team has been widely criticised and, to be honest, completely written off before today. How about that for a response?
No, obviously criticised and fairly, because the position in the table says that oh, we lost too many points. Even today, we can't be happy with the draw, because we need points more than they need, to be honest. And obviously, I think it's a really good result. We could have even won the game at the end. But I think it's a fair result. I think both teams played a really good football, intense. Some good chances from both sides, but we can't be satisfied, to be honest. And I'm pretty upset, because if we show this today here at Anfield against Liverpool, that is first in the league, that is being probably the outstanding team in the Premier League this season, why we can't do this every week? And it frustrates me for first, because I think finally I did a proper performance overall, and I think we need to be aware, and we said it before the game, we need much more from ourselves to get something from this season. We need to put some pride out, because it ain't enough for us.
So do you have an answer to your own question? Where has that been?
No, it's been here, but it's not coming through. Today it came, but we now need to look forward. We did 1 point. Obviously, being 2-1, then scoring, it's always good to get a point, but we need more. We need more, and now we have a FA Cup game against Arsenal. That's going to be really, really tough again. But we want to be in that final again, so we need to get this standard in every game. Like, I wasn't worried about everyone putting an effort today, because it's Liverpool. Like, everyone's going to try to do their best. I will probably be more worried about Southampton after this performance, that we think was already good enough, and is not, because it's going to be a really tough one again. Yeah,
and you said a proper performance from yourself. Have you been getting frustrated with your own levels then?
Oh, I think when you get into games where you feel that you can, I think you always can do more. Like, I come out of the games, and it's not like today's also one of them, where in the first half, probably in 3-4 moments where I'm driving the ball forward, I need probably to hold up a little bit more the ball instead of trying to go for 1-2, because we know how tough it is to play against Liverpool when they win the ball and they do a big transition, because they have really fast players and really good players on the ball in the midfield to drive the ball through. With Curtis and I think Gravenberg, they probably one of the best in the league. Szoboszlai that didn't play today, and then McAllister with the more the ball, get in there, and then time up the spaces for everyone to get up, and then we can play from there.
Do you think you really benefited from the training week you've had? The manager talked about you not really having the time since he's been in charge, and you've had a bit of a block this week, and it felt like we could really see that on the pitch.
Obviously, it helps, but I think it's not about that. Today was about putting real effort onto the game. Playing with some passion, because this game is your art that's gonna give you something from this game. Is obviously you have the tactics, you have the way you want to play, you have the positions where you have to be and everything. But at the end of the day, you need to put your effort in, and that's why we get something from this game today.
But lastly, it can only be the start. This has got to be continued now.
Yeah, of course, you can't stop here. That's what I was saying. And I think we have to bring this frustration to the next games, because in a good way, to understand that this is our level, this has to be our level, and if we can do it this at Anfield today, we have to do it every week.
Well played. You are the player of the match.
Thank you very much.
Yeah, Bruno Fernandes was absolutely fantastic against Liverpool, and I've got to share his frustration from that game, because Manchester United deserved the 3 points against Liverpool, and they put the effort in, as he says there, and if they continue to put the effort in like they did against Liverpool, they will pick up points against everyone else. Absolutely guaranteed. And if Manchester United were able to maintain that level of effort and commitment and dynamism in their play, they will easily finish top 4. They will, because, I mean, what was it, 2.5 years ago? Eric Ten Hag finished 3rd with a much weaker team. So, all Manchester United need to do is put the effort in, because the talent's there. It's there. I mean, look at Bruno Fernandes. He absolutely ran that game. And that is why he's probably the best number 10 in world football today. And that position, it's almost like a mythical position in world football history. I mean, all the greatest players of all time have pretty much played that position, barring, 1 or 2 exceptions. Obviously, Cristiano Ronaldo was primarily an inside forward. Lionel Messi was primarily an inside forward or a false 9. But prior to those 2 guys, because they, to be fair, revolutionised the game, but Lionel Messi could play at number 10. And he wore the number 10. But classic number 10s, or trequartistas as the Italians call them, or second strikers as the Dutch call them, are usually the best player in the team historically. And they don't really have any defensive duties. Their main role is to create and score goals. And the game's moved on a lot since the old school number 10s, because in today's game it's all about the coach, and it's about the system and the tactics and the sideway passing and the tippy-tappy, tiki-taka, all that nonsense. But prior to the Pep Guardiola age, when you had more characters in football, and it was all about the role of the players, because back then, managers built the team around individual players. They didn't really build it around a system back in the day. They might have had a general idea of how they wanted to play, but it was all about the players. And they built the team around players. Like Barcelona in 2006 when they won the Champions League. That team, managed by Frank Rijkaard, was built around another classic number 10 in Ronaldinho. And the teams themselves, they were set up in such a way that they were compact, they were solid at the back. This is generally speaking, by the way. But that allowed the number 10 to just do whatever he wanted. Because that's what the number 10s did. They were allowed creative freedom. Okay? And it's very difficult to do that in today's game when everything's about statistics and possession and all of that stuff. And it's kind of sucked the life out of football, because I don't know if it's an age thing or something like that, but you kind of look back through rose-tinted goggles sometimes at, the era of football when you were growing up, because in my era, all the best players were like Francesco Totti, another classic number 10, Alessandro Del Piero, another one for Juventus as well, and Zinedine Zidane. Zinedine Zidane almost single-handedly won the World Cup for France. He scored 2 in the final, and he carried an ageing French team to the 2006 World Cup final, where they probably would have won it if he didn't headbutt Materazzi and get sent off. But the classic number 10, they were always magic. And they were just allowed free rein to just do whatever they wanted. Another great example of a number 10 was Roberto Baggio. And Roberto Baggio is probably the greatest Italian player of all time, but he's forgotten because he didn't win the World Cup and he missed that penalty in the penalty shootout in USA 94 in the final. So unfortunately, he couldn't crystallise his legacy in greatness. Unfortunately, at club level, he was fantastic. But then again, he didn't win the European Cup, thinking back. Because I've always said that that's always a marker of great players, that you've got to win one of the big trophies, whether it's the Champions League or the World Cup. However, he did win the UEFA Cup and he did win World Player of the Year, and he was fantastic, generally speaking. But Bruno Fernandes seems to me to be the only true number 10 in world football today. And he's always worked best when the team's built around him. And it should be, like the Manchester United team, and it should be built around him because he is the best player in the team. And he's actually very consistent as well. Usually, I know that's a little bit of a contradiction when I say usually he's very consistent. But that's not necessarily his fault because he does always put the effort in. And it's no good trying to fit Bruno Fernandes into a system. Luckily, this new Ruben Amorim system is set up in a way that it shouldn't stifle Bruno Fernandes because there's two number 10 positions. So you can just stick him in one of them and just let him run the game like he did against Liverpool. And he was amazing. I mean, that assist for Martinez, oh wow, it was just out of the corner of his eye, just slotted it into the box, and then Martinez just rifled it into the top of the net. And I think it was Gary Neville that said it reminded him of when Ryan Giggs rifled the ball into the top of the net against Arsenal in the FA Cup semi-final replay in 1999 in that classic game. But yeah, I think that's one of the reasons why I like Bruno Fernandes, apart from these amazing goals and assists and his record and his consistency. He's one of the old school characters. And if you just watch him and you just watch his vision, it's just something to behold, you know. And I'd like to see more of that in football. Players that are just allowed free rein to just express themselves and to attack and just create and not have to pass sideways like a crab or whatever. And because I'm sick to death of these superb systems and all of that. And I was talking to a pal of mine at the weekend. Football is just too much about systems now, and it's not very good business, really, if you look at it from an owner's point of view. Because if you employ a manager because he employs a certain system, you've got to buy the players to fit that system. So there's £1 billion right there to build a team. Whereas if you just buy the best players that you possibly can and then hire a manager to create a system that suits the players that you've got, then that just seems to be better business. I mean, it worked for Chelsea under Abramovich. They won everything. It works for Real Madrid. You know, they run through managers all the time. And Perez just buys all the best players. But thankfully, the Ruben Amorim system seems to suit the players that he's got. And it certainly seems to suit Bruno Fernandes when the players put the effort in, which is what we've always wanted all season. We just want them to put the effort in. But number 10s in world football now, I mean, I suppose you could class Musiala at Bayern Munich as a number 10. You could also class... Well, Jude Bellingham played at number 10 for Real Madrid last season anyway, but he's more of a number 8. He's more of a box-to-box dynamic Roy Keane, Steven Gerrard type footballer, who, again, has kind of been phased out by, you know, all this tippy-tappy stuff, so it's nice to see a player like him come through again. Phil Foden's not really a number 10. He's more of an inside forward, a creative inside forward, much like a Bernardo Silva or a David Silva. Who else is? I mean, De Bruyne is not really a number 10. Again, he's more of a number 8. He's more of a Scholes type player. Who's that? Well, I mean, there's not really many people of note in Italy at the moment that I can think of. There's Barella, but again, he's a number 8. Who's at Barcelona? Pedri, maybe. But the thing is, a lot of these players, like Pedri, like Lamau, Gavi, these guys, they've all been trained from the age of 6 to play that tiki-taka kind of system, whereas Bruno Fernandes has just come up through the Portuguese style and just been allowed to develop his skills individually as opposed to adapting them to a system. And I think that's just worked wonders for him because, I mean, Bruno Fernandes, I mean, he's 30, but you'd still get some money for him now, and I just would not like to see Bruno Fernandes go. Not at all. I mean, I've heard Man United fans talk about Bruno Fernandes should be sold. They don't like his attitude. I mean, I don't understand that. What about his attitude? What? Because he's moaning a lot and he's complaining and he's, well, at least he's shown that he cares. Would you rather he acted like Marcus Rashford and just waltzed around the place? No. Bruno Fernandes gets 2 thumbs up from the big D. But anyway, so, I mean, there's some of my favourite number 10s over the years. I used to love Alessandro Del Piero. And I remember I got to see him play once, and it was Man United had a friendly with Juventus in the summer of 2008. And this was a special kind of friendly because it was set up specifically so that Manchester United could parade the European Cup and the Premier League that they'd just won. Because they weren't allowed to parade it because the Rangers fans absolutely demolished Manchester in the Europa League final that year, because the final was at Man City's ground that year. And I remember I was right at the very front, and Del Piero was just there, and he was just warming up, and he was having a chat to Buffon and whoever else. And I remember just shouting, Alex! And he looked over and I went, give us a wave. And he went, oh, like this. And it was just class. He's just one of those sort of magical players. And, there's not enough of players like that these days. But yeah, Zinedine Zidane. I mean, Zinedine Zidane was probably the best player of his generation. I would say, yeah, I would just give it to Zidane over Brazilian Ronaldo. As great as Brazilian Ronaldo was, he was hampered by a lot by his injuries. But Zinedine Zidane, I mean, he was a leader. He made that French team tick. He wins everything for them. Big game player. 2 goals in the World Cup final in '98. A stunning volley against Leverkusen in the 2002 Champions League final at Hampden Park, if I'm not mistaken. And I mean, that was probably the greatest goal in Champions League history. Beaten only recently, when I say recently, in recent years by Gareth Bale's immense scissor kick, or bicycle kick against the Scousers in the Champions League final. That Zinedine Zidane managed and was the winning coach that year. So a nice little bit of poetic justice there, if you ask me. Roberto Baggio, used to love him. He was an amazing player. Bergkamp, great player. Dennis Bergkamp was absolutely fantastic. And just to prove that I am not a biased Manchester United fan, I tell it like it is, and I give the brutal, honest truth, as it says in my YouTube channel, on the channel page. And my brutally honest opinion is that Dennis Bergkamp, unfortunately, was better than Eric Cantona. Eric Cantona, even though he won the number 7, was a number 10, and he was fantastic for Manchester United. He made that team tick as well. Who else? I didn't really get to see Maradona. Platini. There's Platini as well. Now, Michel Platini, he's an interesting one because Michel Platini you could argue was the best player of the 80s. Better than Diego Maradona, but the only difference is Diego Maradona had a cult of personality, and so he got a lot more attention from the media, so people are a lot more aware of him. And you know, he won his big trophy obviously in the '86 World Cup final, but Platini won his big trophy because he won the European Cup in 1985 for Juventus, scoring the winning goal with a penalty against defending champions Liverpool. Unfortunately, people don't remember that game for the match itself because that was the game of the Heysel disaster. So that has obviously overshadowed that, and so perhaps Platini doesn't get the recognition as a player that he probably should have got. But if you just go back and look at Michel Platini's stats, I mean, he was the best player in the best team in the 80s. Juventus. I mean, he was playing with great players. He was the best player of a great team. Whereas Maradona, he always seemed to be, he carried weak teams, which is an amazing feat in and of itself, obviously. But still, if you're the best player in a great team, then you're the best player. But if you're the best player in a weak team, I don't think he has the same sort of. It's not the same level in the Big D's humble opinion. But you know, I'm taking nothing away from Diego Maradona. He's clearly a legend of the game. Fair enough. Paul Gascoigne was a number 10, or he could at the very least play as a number 10. He used to play as number 10 for Lazio, because obviously back in Serie A back in the day, you know, the Italians were obsessed with number 10s because there was Baggio, Maldini, there was Mancini as well. Francesco Totti was another. Yeah, obviously they got Maradona in there at Napoli as well. Ruud Gullit, another one, World Player of the Year, second striker, trequartista, number 10, phenomenal player. But yeah, the number 10, fantastic position. I hope it makes a comeback. I hope classic number 9s make a comeback, classic number 10s, box-to-box midfielders as well. I want to see a little bit of old school back in football. Anyway, what do you guys think? If you've reached this far in the video, you're clearly interested in what I've got to say, and because of that, I am very interested in what you've got to say. Who are some of your favourite number 10s over the years? And do you think there's more number 10s in world football now that I might have missed? And do you think there's number 10s that are better than Bruno Fernandes? Please put it in the comments. I read all of the comments and I really enjoy engaging with my viewers. But anyway, thanks for watching. I'll see you in the next one.